What if everything you thought you knew about good and evil was only the beginning? Imagine a world before time, where light reigned supreme, and harmony was the very fabric of existence. A realm so perfect, it seems unimaginable that anything could disrupt its peace. Yet, even in perfection, questions can take root. Questions that grow into doubts, doubts that ignite rebellion. This is the story of Lucifer, the most radiant being ever created, who dared to dream beyond his place. It's a tale of ambition, clashing with devotion, of love twisting into pride. How does a kingdom of divine order fall into chaos? What happens when an angel challenges the Creator himself? The answers lie in an ancient cosmic war, a battle that split heaven itself. Armies of angels clashed, loyalty was tested, and the fate of creation hung in the balance. The echoes of this war ripple through history, shaping the world we live in today. But why does this story matter to you? Because it's not just about what happened, it's about what it means, about how pride can blind us, how defiance can destroy, and how choices shape destinies. Ready to uncover the truth behind the fall? Let's dive in. In the beginning, before time as we know it, there existed a realm beyond imagination, a place of pure light and perfect harmony. This was heaven, a kingdom untouched by darkness or discord, where every moment resonated with divine love and unshakable order. Imagine a world without shadows, without flaws, where beauty was not just seen, but felt in every fiber of existence. It wasn't merely a place, it was an experience, a symphony of perfection, orchestrated by the Creator himself. At the heart of this celestial kingdom stood the Creator, whose presence radiated power and grace. Around him, countless angels moved in synchronized worship, their voices blending into an eternal hymn of praise. Each note they sang carried the weight of eternity, echoing through the vast expanse of heaven, like waves rippling across an endless ocean. These angels were not mere servants. They were living embodiments of purpose, each created to reflect a unique facet of divine glory. Together, they formed a tapestry of unity, bound by love and devotion. Among these heavenly beings, the archangels held a special role. They were the guardians of this sacred harmony, entrusted with upholding the balance that made heaven so flawless. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and others stood as pillars of strength, their loyalty unwavering. Their duty was not burdensome, but joyful, for they served not out of obligation, but out of overwhelming gratitude for the gift of existence. Every action, every thought, every breath within this realm revolved around one central truth. The Creator's will was supreme, and his wisdom governed all. But even amidst such perfection, there was room for wonder. Angels marveled at the mysteries of creation, pondering the depths of the Creator's plans. Questions arose, not out of doubt, but out of curiosity. Why had they been given free will? What greater purposes awaited them beyond their current roles? These musings were innocent at first, reflections of their desire to understand more deeply. Yet, beneath the surface of this otherwise flawless domain, something subtle began to stir. It is said that pride often begins with admiration for oneself or for another. And perhaps that is why Lucifer, the most magnificent of all angels, found himself drawn toward thoughts that should have remained unspoken. He was unlike any other being in heaven, adorned with brilliance that surpassed even the brightest stars. His name itself meant light-bearer, and his role was to illuminate the path of righteousness. But as he basked in his own splendor, a seed of ambition took root within him. What if I could rise higher? What if my glory could match, or even surpass, that of the Creator? These questions, once dormant, now whispered louder in his mind. Though still cloaked in beauty and majesty, Lucifer's heart began to shift ever so slightly. Unbeknownst to the rest of heaven, the foundation of its perfection was about to be tested. Little did anyone realize that the harmony they cherished would soon face its greatest challenge, one born not from outside forces, but from within. Lucifer, the light-bearer, once stood as the crown jewel of heaven. His beauty was unparalleled, his wisdom unmatched, and his power second only to the Creator himself. Among all the angels, he shone the brightest, a beacon of divine radiance that illuminated the very fabric of heaven. Yet, within this brilliance lay the potential for shadow, a truth no one could have foreseen at first. For Lucifer was not merely content with being loved, admired, or exalted. He began to crave something far greater: supremacy. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. At first, it was admiration, his own reflection in the mirror of creation. How could he not marvel at himself when every angel looked up to him? Their reverence fed his ego, and soon, the whispers of his greatness became echoes in his mind. He began to see himself not just as a servant of the Creator, but as a rival, an equal, perhaps even more. The gifts bestowed upon him by the Creator, his dazzling appearance, his unmatched intellect, his commanding presence, slowly twisted into tools of self-aggrandizement. What had once been gratitude turned into entitlement. The shift happened gradually, like cracks forming on flawless glass. Lucifer began to question the hierarchy of heaven. Why should he bow before the Creator when he possessed such extraordinary gifts? Was it fair that one being held ultimate authority over all others? These questions were not born of malice at first, but of pride, a dangerous kind of pride that whispered lies into his heart. It told him he deserved more, that his magnificence warranted recognition beyond servitude, that true fulfillment lay in autonomy, not obedience. As these thoughts grew louder, Lucifer's demeanor changed. Once radiant with humility, he now carried an air of arrogance. Though still beloved by many angels, there was a newfound edge to his interactions, a quiet defiance masked by charm. He began to share his musings with those closest to him, planting seeds of doubt among the heavenly host. "Why do we worship?" he would ask under the guise of curiosity. "Is it because we truly understand our purpose, or because we are told to? Shouldn't beings as glorious as us have the freedom to choose our destiny?" These questions spread like ripples across still water. Some angels dismissed them, remaining steadfast in their loyalty to the Creator. But others, drawn by Lucifer's charisma and persuaded by his arguments, found themselves questioning what they had always accepted as truth. They admired him after all. He was their leader, their shining example. If he doubted, why shouldn't they? What began as private musings soon evolved into rebellion. Lucifer's ambition swelled, fueled by the growing number of angels who aligned themselves with him. 2/3 of heaven eventually came to follow his lead, seduced by promises of independence and elevation. Together, they formed a faction, united not by love for the Creator, but by a desire for power. Where once there had been harmony, division now took root. The unity of heaven fractured, its perfection marred by dissent. Yet, despite his growing influence, Lucifer remained blind to the irony of his actions. In seeking freedom from perceived oppression, he became the oppressor. His quest for equality led him to impose his will upon others, and in striving to rise above the Creator, he fell further from grace. The seeds of rebellion had sprouted, but their fruit would prove bitter indeed. Little did Lucifer realize that his rebellion would set off a chain reaction, one that would culminate in cosmic war, betrayal, and unimaginable loss. What began as whispers of discontent would soon erupt into open defiance, shaking the foundations of heaven itself. The stage was set for a battle that would alter eternity and seal Lucifer's fate forever. The rebellion that Lucifer ignited was not an overnight phenomenon. It began as a quiet undercurrent, subtle yet relentless, spreading through the ranks of heaven like a shadow creeping across the sunlit plains. At first, it seemed almost harmless. A few murmurs here, a whispered conversation there. But beneath the surface of this celestial harmony, discontent festered and grew. Lucifer, with his silver tongue and magnetic presence, became the architect of dissent. He did not shout or demand allegiance outright. Instead, he sowed seeds of doubt with calculated precision. His strategy was masterful. Lucifer understood the hearts of the angels better than anyone else in heaven. He knew their desires, their insecurities, and their longing for purpose. Rather than overtly condemning the Creator, he framed his arguments as questions designed to challenge the very foundation of their existence. Why must we serve without question? He would ask. Is our greatness meant to be confined by obedience? Shouldn't beings, such as ourselves, have the freedom to determine our own paths? These queries were cloaked in reason, making them all the more dangerous. They appealed to the angels' sense of self-worth, playing on their pride and curiosity. To those who listened, Lucifer painted a vision of liberation, a future where the angels could transcend their roles as servants and become masters of their destinies. He spoke of equality, fairness, and autonomy, framing his rebellion not as defiance, but as enlightenment. His words carried weight because they came from one so revered, so radiant. How could anyone doubt Lucifer, the light-bearer, the brightest star in heaven's firmament? Many angels found themselves entranced by his rhetoric, unable to discern the poison hidden within its beauty. As Lucifer gained followers, the unity of heaven began to unravel. Angels who had once worshipped the Creator in perfect harmony now stood divided. 2/3 of heaven eventually aligned themselves with Lucifer, swayed by his promises of freedom and glory. This staggering number was a testament to his influence, but also to the fragility of even the most divine systems when tested by ambition and pride. The loyal angels watched in stunned silence as their brothers and sisters turned away from the Creator, their faces filled with confusion and sorrow. Yet, Lucifer's rebellion was not without resistance. Some angels saw through his facade, recognizing the danger lurking behind his eloquent speeches. Among them were Michael and Gabriel, steadfast in their loyalty to the Creator. They pleaded with Lucifer to abandon his destructive path, warning him of the consequences of defying divine authority. But Lucifer, blinded by his own hubris, dismissed their warnings. To him, they were relics of an outdated order, beings too afraid to embrace change. His arrogance deepened, solidifying his resolve to challenge the throne itself. With each passing moment, the tension in heaven escalated. Lucifer's followers prepared for what they believed would be a glorious uprising, while the loyal angels fortified their ranks, ready to defend the sanctity of the Creator's will. The air crackled with anticipation, charged with the weight of impending conflict. What had started as whispers among the heavenly host had now become a chasm, dividing them irreparably. Lucifer's ambition reached its zenith when he declared his intention to ascend to the throne of God. No longer content to simply question authority, he sought to overthrow it entirely. He rallied his army, promising them victory and exaltation if they remained faithful to his cause. Together, they marched toward the heart of heaven, their steps echoing with determination and defiance. Little did they know that their rebellion would lead not to triumph, but to catastrophe, a war that would shake the foundations of creation and alter the course of eternity. In this pivotal moment, the stage was set for a cosmic confrontation unlike any other. The fate of heaven, and perhaps the universe itself, hung in the balance. Would Lucifer's audacity prevail, or would the unyielding power of the Creator crush his rebellion? The answer lay in the battle to come, a clash of wills that would define the boundaries of loyalty, love, and divine justice. The march toward the throne of God was not just a physical journey, but a descent into chaos, a moment when the very fabric of heaven seemed to tremble under the weight of impending conflict. Lucifer, now transformed from a radiant light-bearer into a figure of towering defiance, led his army with an aura of unshakable confidence. His once beautiful visage had begun to twist, reflecting the corruption that festered within his heart. Behind him stretched a vast host of angels, 2/3 of heaven's glory now aligned against its creator. Their wings, once symbols of divine grace, now cast shadows over the celestial plains as they advanced. On the opposing side stood Michael, Gabriel, and the loyal angels, those who remained steadfast in their devotion to the Creator. They formed an impenetrable line before the throne, their faces resolute, their weapons gleaming with holy fire. These were not warriors by nature. They were beings of peace, created to serve and worship. Yet, in this dire hour, they became guardians of divine order, prepared to defend the sanctity of heaven at any cost. The sight of brother pitted against brother, of angel facing angel, was a tragedy beyond measure. It was as if the stars themselves wept for what was about to unfold. As the two armies converged, the air grew heavy with tension. The silence that preceded the clash was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of divine energy pulsing through the realm. Then, without warning, the first blow was struck. A bolt of searing light erupted from Lucifer's hand, aimed directly at Michael. With swift precision, Michael raised his sword, a blade forged from the essence of righteousness, and deflected the attack. The explosion that followed sent shockwaves rippling across heaven, shaking its golden spires and scattering clouds of glory. What followed was a battle unlike anything ever witnessed. Angels clashed in a dazzling display of power and fury, their movements faster than mortal eyes could perceive. Swords of light met shields of flame, each strike resonating like thunder. The battlefield became a kaleidoscope of colors, bursts of radiant gold from the loyal angels countered by dark, smoldering streaks unleashed by Lucifer's followers. The harmony that had once defined heaven was shattered, replaced by the cacophony of war. Lucifer himself fought with unmatched ferocity, his every move calculated to inspire fear and awe. He wielded powers that seemed almost godlike, summoning storms of fire and shadow to engulf his enemies. Yet, even as he pressed forward, his arrogance began to reveal cracks. For all his strength, he lacked the unity and purpose that bound the loyal angels together. While Michael and Gabriel fought as one, driven by love for the Creator, Lucifer's forces were held together by ambition and pride, fragile bonds that began to fray under pressure. Amidst the chaos, Moments of clarity pierced through the haze of combat. Some of Lucifer's followers hesitated, doubt creeping into their hearts as they witnessed the unwavering resolve of the loyal angels. Could this rebellion truly succeed? Was it worth tearing apart the perfection they had once known? But these doubts were quickly silenced by Lucifer's commanding presence. He roared commands, rallying his troops with promises of victory and glory. His voice carried both menace and persuasion, a reminder of why so many had followed him in the first place. The battle raged on, neither side yielding an inch. Entire legions of angels collided in explosive confrontations, their forms dissolving into streams of light as they fell. Each loss was felt deeply, for no angel had ever perished before, not in this realm of eternal life. The sheer magnitude of the conflict shook the foundations of heaven, causing rivers of crystalline water to churn and mountains of pearl to quake. It was as though creation itself recoiled at the horror of what was happening. Despite the carnage, there was a strange beauty to the scene, a paradoxical blend of devastation and divinity. Every strike, every burst of energy was a testament to the immense power of those involved. This was no mere skirmish. It was a cosmic struggle between two opposing forces: obedience versus rebellion, humility versus pride, love versus ambition. And at its center stood Lucifer, locked in a titanic duel with Michael, their swords clashing with such intensity that the heavens above seemed to split open. Yet, even as Lucifer pushed forward, a sense of inevitability hung in the air. For all his might, he was challenging not just an opponent, but the very source of existence. The Creator's will was absolute, and no amount of rebellion could overturn it. As the battle reached its crescendo, the loyal angels rallied with renewed vigor, their faith unbroken. Lucifer's downfall was near, though he refused to see it. In his hubris, he believed himself untouchable, but he was wrong. The final act of this cosmic drama was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the war in heaven reached its zenith, Lucifer's defiance reached new heights, both literally and figuratively. No longer content to merely challenge the Creator, he sought to embody his rebellion fully, transforming himself into a monstrous dragon. This was not the elegant, radiant being who had once been the pride of heaven. This was something darker, more grotesque, a twisted reflection of what he had become. His scales shimmered with an unholy light, each one etched with runes of arrogance and malice. His eyes burned like molten fire, piercing through the chaos of battle with a gaze that seemed to mock divinity itself. His voice thundered across the battlefield, taunting God and daring him to act. "Is this all you are capable of?" Lucifer roared, his words dripping with venom. "You claim to be omnipotent, yet here I stand, unbroken. Your so-called order is nothing but chains, meant to bind us, to stifle our greatness." His words were designed to provoke, to sow doubt even among the loyal angels. But they also revealed the depth of his delusion. In his mind, he was no longer fighting against divine authority. He was waging war against tyranny, positioning himself as a liberator rather than a traitor. Yet, for all his posturing, there was desperation beneath the surface, a flicker of fear masked by bravado. The Creator did not respond directly. Instead, his presence filled the battlefield, a silent but overwhelming force that silenced even the fiercest clashes. It was as though the very air grew heavier, charged with an energy that none could ignore. Lucifer sneered at this display, mistaking it for weakness. "You will not speak? Then let your actions betray you." With a roar that shook the foundations of heaven, he lunged toward the throne, his massive form blotting out the light around him. For a moment, it seemed as though he might succeed, his claws mere inches from tearing apart the sacred seat of power. But then, Michael and Gabriel stepped forward, their forms glowing brighter than ever before. They moved in perfect synchronization, their loyalty to the Creator fueling every strike. Michael raised his sword high, its blade ablaze with holy fire, while Gabriel summoned a shield of pure light, deflecting Lucifer's attacks with precision. Together, they formed an impenetrable barrier between Lucifer and the throne, their movements fluid and purposeful. Each swing of Michael's sword sent shockwaves rippling outward, forcing Lucifer to retreat step by step. Lucifer fought back with everything he had, unleashing torrents of shadowy flames and summoning tendrils of darkness to ensnare his opponents. Yet, no matter how ferocious his assaults, the archangels remained steadfast. Their connection to the Creator gave them strength beyond measure, allowing them to withstand even the most devastating blows. As the battle wore on, cracks began to appear in Lucifer's facade. His movements became erratic, driven more by fury than strategy. The arrogance that had once defined him now consumed him, clouding his judgment and leaving him vulnerable. "Do you truly believe you can win?" Michael asked, his voice calm but commanding. "Your rebellion is built on lies, lies you tell yourself and others. You cannot defeat what you were created to serve." Lucifer snarled in response, unwilling, or perhaps unable, to accept the truth. "I was created to surpass," he spat, his voice trembling with rage, "to rise above the limitations placed upon me." Gabriel spoke next, her tone softer, but no less resolute. "You were given freedom, Lucifer, but you chose to abuse it. You traded love for pride, unity for division. That is why you fall. Not because you are defeated, but because you have already destroyed yourself." These words struck a nerve, causing Lucifer to falter for the first time. For a fleeting moment, doubt flickered in his fiery eyes. Could it be true? Had his quest for supremacy cost him everything? But just as quickly as the thought arose, it was crushed under the weight of his pride. "Enough," he bellowed, summoning one final desperate surge of power. He launched himself at the archangels, determined to break through their defenses and claim victory. Yet, his effort was futile. Michael and Gabriel countered with a combined attack, their weapons merging into a single beam of blinding light. The impact was cataclysmic, sending Lucifer reeling backward. His draconic form began to disintegrate, his dark essence unraveling like threads pulled from a tapestry. As he fell, his screams echoed throughout heaven, a sound of anguish and denial that would haunt eternity. The battle was over, but the consequences of Lucifer's defiance would ripple far beyond this moment. His transformation into Satan, the adversary, marked the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by enmity and estrangement. And though he had been cast down, his influence lingered, poisoning hearts and minds wherever it took root. The cosmic stage had shifted, setting the stage for humanity's own encounter with temptation and redemption. What began as a rebellion in heaven would ultimately shape the destiny of Earth and every soul upon it. The climax of the battle unfolded with a finality that reverberated through every corner of heaven. Lucifer, now reduced to a shadow of his former self, fought with reckless abandon, his once majestic form crumbling under the weight of his hubris. Each strike from Michael and Gabriel pushed him further toward the precipice, yet he refused to yield. His defiance burned brighter than ever, fueled by desperation and denial. "You cannot extinguish me," he roared, his voice cracking with raw emotion. "I am eternal. I am glory incarnate." But for all his bravado, the truth was undeniable. Lucifer's rebellion had reached its endgame. The combined power of Michael's sword and Gabriel's shield created an unstoppable force, a manifestation of divine justice that no amount of pride could withstand. With one final devastating blow, their weapons converged in a burst of radiant light so intense that it blinded even the most resilient angels. The explosion rippled outward, shattering the battlefield into fragments of light and shadow. When the brilliance faded, Lucifer stood, or rather hovered, broken and defeated. His draconic form was nearly unrecognizable, his scales cracked and blackened, his fiery eyes dimmed with exhaustion. Yet, even in this state, his defiance persisted. He glared at the Creator's throne, his hatred undiminished. "This is not over," he hissed, his voice trembling with venom. "If I cannot rule, then I will ruin. If I cannot ascend, then I will drag others down with me." Before he could utter another word, the Creator intervened, not with anger or vengeance, but with a solemn decree. A vortex opened beneath Lucifer, a swirling void of infinite darkness that seemed to stretch into non-existence itself. It was neither fire nor brimstone, but something far worse: separation from the source of all life and love. As Lucifer plummeted into the abyss, his screams echoed across creation, a haunting symphony of despair and fury. Behind him followed the fallen angels, those who had aligned themselves with his cause, now condemned to share his fate. Together, they were cast out of heaven, banished to a realm devoid of light, a place where their rebellion would fester, feeding the flames of bitterness and hate. The sight of their descent sent shockwaves through the remaining angels. Many wept openly, mourning the loss of their brothers and sisters. Others stood silent, grappling with the enormity of what had transpired. Never before had such devastation occurred within heaven's borders. The scars left behind would never fully heal, serving as a somber reminder of the cost of disobedience. Yet, amidst the sorrow, there was also resolve. Michael and Gabriel sheathed their weapons, their faces reflecting both relief and determination. They turned to the loyal angels, addressing them with words meant to inspire hope. "This day marks not only defeat, but deliverance," Michael declared, his voice steady and firm. "Through this trial, we have seen the consequences of pride and the strength of unity. Let us remain steadfast in our devotion, for only together can we uphold the harmony of heaven." Gabriel added, her tone softer, yet equally resolute. "Our victory is not one of destruction, but preservation. We fight not to conquer, but to protect, to safeguard the divine purpose entrusted to us. Today, we honor those who fell, not by following their path, but by remaining true to ours." As the dust settled, the loyal angels gathered around the throne, their hymns of worship rising once more. Though tinged with sadness, their voices carried renewed conviction. Heaven began to mend, its wounds slowly healing under the Creator's watchful gaze. But the aftermath of the war extended beyond the celestial realm. For Lucifer, now known as Satan, the exile marked the beginning of a new mission: to corrupt and deceive wherever possible. His enmity toward the Creator found a new target: humanity, the crowning jewel of creation. Thus, the cosmic drama shifted its focus to Earth, setting the stage for humanity's own encounter with temptation and free will. What had begun as a rebellion in heaven would ripple through time, shaping the destiny of countless souls. The battle may have ended, but the struggle between good and evil was far from over. And so, the story continued. A tale of choices, consequences, and the enduring promise of redemption. With Satan's defeat and expulsion from heaven, the war that had torn apart the celestial realm came to a close. Yet, this was no ordinary conclusion. It was a moment of profound significance, one that would echo through eternity and shape the destiny of creation itself. The loyal angels, though victorious, stood amidst the aftermath with heavy hearts. They gazed upon the empty spaces where their fallen brethren had once dwelled, feeling both relief and sorrow. The scars of rebellion were etched deeply into the fabric of heaven, serving as a stark reminder of the fragility of even divine harmony when tested by pride and ambition. The Creator spoke then, his voice resonating with authority and compassion. "Let it be known," he declared, "that rebellion against my will brings only ruin. But let it also be known that my love endures, even for those who have turned away." These words carried weight, offering clarity to the loyal angels while foreshadowing the unfolding drama on earth. Though Satan and his followers had been cast out, their influence would not vanish entirely. Instead, they would manifest in subtler but equally dangerous ways, through temptation, deception, and corruption. Humanity, created in love and given free will, would become the new battleground in this cosmic struggle. As the angels listened, the Creator unveiled a prophecy, a glimpse into the future of his divine plan. He revealed that humanity, though fragile and imperfect, held immense potential. Through them, he would demonstrate mercy, justice, and redemption. This revelation filled the loyal angels with awe and purpose. Their role was clear: to guide, protect, and intercede for humanity, ensuring that God's light continued to shine even in the darkest corners of existence. Among these angels, Michael and Gabriel emerged as steadfast leaders, embodying courage and wisdom in the face of adversity. But the Creator's message went beyond instruction. It was a call to holiness and righteousness. To follow him meant more than blind obedience. It required a heart aligned with his truth, a life devoted to reflecting his love. For the loyal angels, this affirmation deepened their resolve. They understood now that their victory over Satan was not an endpoint, but the beginning of a greater mission. The battle for souls would rage across time and space, testing the faith and integrity of every being touched by grace. On earth, humanity began its journey under the watchful eyes of heaven. Created in the image of the Creator, humans possessed a unique capacity for choice, a gift that distinguished them from all other creations. With this freedom came responsibility, for each decision carried consequences. The seeds of sin sown by Satan's rebellion found fertile ground in human hearts, manifesting as disobedience, greed, and strife. Yet, alongside these shadows, there remained a glimmer of hope. The Creator had already foreseen the fall of humanity and prepared a path to restoration, a promise fulfilled through sacrifice and covenant. This promise became the central theme of history, woven into the lives of countless generations. From the earliest stories of Adam and Eve to the rise and fall of nations, the tension between good and evil played out in vivid detail. Prophets arose, speaking words of warning and encouragement, calling people back to righteousness. Heroes emerged, flawed yet faithful, demonstrating that even broken vessels could be used for divine purposes. And through it all, the loyal angels watched, guiding and protecting those who sought the Creator's will. The ultimate fulfillment of this promise arrived in the form of Christ, a figure who bridged heaven and earth, embodying both divinity and humanity. His life, death, and resurrection became the cornerstone of redemption, offering salvation to all who believed. Satan, ever defiant, sought to thwart this plan at every turn, but his efforts only served to highlight the triumph of divine love. Through Christ, the power of sin and death was broken, paving the way for reconciliation and eternal peace. For humanity, the lesson was clear. Holiness is not optional, but essential. Righteousness is not merely a moral code, but a reflection of divine character. Those who choose to follow the Creator are called to live lives marked by humility, love, and obedience. In doing so, they become part of a grand narrative, one that transcends time and space, uniting heaven and earth in a symphony of redemption. And so, the story continues, extending far beyond the boundaries of heaven's war. It is a tale of contrasts, light and darkness, obedience and rebellion, despair and hope. Each chapter invites us to consider our place within this unfolding drama, challenging us to align ourselves with what is true, noble, and just. For in the end, the choices we make today ripple through eternity, shaping not only our destinies, but the legacy we leave behind. As we reflect on the cosmic drama that unfolded, from the creation of heaven to Lucifer's fall, the war in heaven, and its enduring consequences, I find myself struck by the profound relevance of this ancient story to our lives today. At its core, this narrative is not just about celestial beings or divine battles. It's about choices. Every decision carries weight, shaping not only our own paths, but also the world around us. Lucifer's tragic downfall reminds us how pride and ambition, when left unchecked, can blind us to truth and lead us away from what truly matters: love, humility, and purpose. The key lesson here is clear. Our actions have consequences, both seen and unseen. Whether in our relationships, careers, or personal growth, the values we uphold define who we are. Like the loyal angels, we must choose unity over division, faith over fear, and service over self-interest. And yet, like humanity, we are imperfect, prone to mistakes and missteps. But even in our flaws, there is hope. Redemption is possible when we turn back toward what is good and true. I encourage you to take a moment to reflect on your own life. Where do you see echoes of this story? Are there areas where pride or doubt has crept in? How can you align yourself more closely with principles of righteousness and grace? Let this be an invitation, not to dwell in guilt, but to grow, to question, and to seek deeper understanding. Engage in conversations with others about these timeless themes. Explore further, whether through scripture, literature, or introspection, and allow yourself to wrestle with the big questions. What does it mean to live a meaningful life? How can I contribute to harmony rather than discord? Ultimately, this story challenges us to look beyond ourselves, to recognize that we are part of something far greater. We each have a role to play in the ongoing battle between light and darkness, not with swords, but with hearts full of compassion and integrity. So, let's step forward with courage, knowing that every choice matters, and every act of love moves us closer to the divine purpose for which we were created.